Everybody is upset at Oprah Winfrey and they are dragging her in this video. I have a collection of the Black community speaking about this and they're dragging Oprah Winfrey. For me, I don't feel any type of way about Oprah. I still love Oprah. So what's going on here? Oprah came out and she told a story about how Whitney Houston fell and I guess how she framed it, it was like she failed because of them sugar boogers, right? And we know that Whitney Houston and a lot of Black celebrities, they be on them sugar boogers a lot. So Whitney Houston people, they are clapping back, and Pat Houston clapping back and said, no, Whitney Houston, she did trip and fall, but it was not due to no sugar boogers. It was just due to because it was dark. And that's the reason why it was in a dark area, and that's why she fell. So a lot of people are pretty much dragging Oprah like they always do, because Oprah be asking the hard questions, and she will ask hard questions on her own Black people, and a lot of Black people want you to, not ask Black people the hard questions because we're going against, the white supremacy. So it's like, why ask our own, or why try to attack our own? But Oprah, she's a reporter first. She put her career first. That's what a lot of people will see, because people see if you're Black, then you need to put your Blackness first before anything. And if you don't put your Blackness first before anything, Black people will feel some type of way about that. So let's look at some of these videos and comments, and leave your comments, because I know my audience cannot stand Oprah. Y'all do not like Oprah. Y'all love to drag Oprah. And I give you what you want. I may not feel the same way, but I will give you what you want. All right, well, let's look. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe here. And make sure you guys leave comments. And I just thank you guys for the support. Let's check out what I got in store.
We did the whole, hey girl, how you doing, greeting thing. And then I stopped the cameras and I went behind stage and I said, so tell me, what do you want? What do you want to happen here? And I'm going to tell you what I want to happen here. And that was one of the most powerful interviews. And do you all know, this is an amazing thing that happened. I had such trust from the Oprah Show audience that Whitney did, I think it was her last show with us, and she had gone back on drugs. The first interview I did with her, when we'd gone behind stage and I asked her about her intention, she was clean. But the day she came to my show then to perform in front of the audience, she was not. And she fell off of the stage. And I knew that if that story got out that she'd fallen off of the stage, that she would be destroyed by that. And so even though the audience was there and the audience had cameras, I begged them not to put those pictures out because it would ruin her life, and they did not.
And what about...
That would not happen today, I can tell you.
Yeah. What about...
Oprah Winfrey have proved my point once again. Oprah's telling the world that Whitney Houston fell on her show while she was high, and she begged the audience not to tell. Now, if Whitney Houston fell on her stage, which obviously she did because Oprah is credible nevertheless, why would you be talking about this? And I'm sure this happened years ago. Whitney Houston been dead for years. So why are you talking about this now? Why? Why do you keep on doing stuff and saying things to try to embarrass Black entertainers? Let's talk about what these little girls that's missing at your school in Africa, let's talk about where they at. Let's talk about Weinstein or whatever his name is. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about them Jeffrey Epstein files. Let's talk about what goes on the Epstein Island. Let's talk about that. Stop. I don't get it. Why do you always try to embarrass your own people? I don't understand that. I mean, even if she did fall, why would it be something that you talk about now? And that woman been dead for years. I don't get it. I mean, does it make for a good news story? You know what's going to make for a good news story? for you to get out here and talk about what's going on with these girls in Africa that came up missing from your school, Weinstein and the Jeffrey Einstein files and what goes on in his island, that's going to make for an excellent news story. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Now, a lot of people are mad at Oprah Winfrey for how she just did Whitney Houston, but this type of behavior from her, to me, is not shocking whatsoever. It's actually expected. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here's the video.
I think it was her last show with us, and she had gone back on drugs. The first interview I did with her when we'd gone behind stage and I asked her about her attention, she was clean. But the day she came to my show then to perform in front of the audience, she was not, and she fell off of the stage. And I knew that if that story got out that she'd fallen off the stage, that she would be destroyed by that. And so even though the audience was there and the audience had cameras, I begged them not to put.
Now, we're going to get into what Pat Houston had to say in response to that because she's calling BS. But before we get into that, I want to talk about how I personally feel like a lot of people try to discredit who Whitney Houston was and everything that she accomplished because of her drug problems. And a lot of men in the industry have drug problems and don't have to deal with the same thing. But because she's a woman and a black woman nonetheless, it's a different story. Now, Pat Houston responded with a photo of Whitney Houston from that Oprah Winfrey show and said, from that 2009 interview on the Oprah Winfrey show, Whitney Houston absolutely fell off stage, but it was during a sound check and it was due to the darkness of the area and her unfamiliarity with the stage. She was absolutely not high. The story was picked up by several media outlets. Like many people, she faced personal battles, but it is inaccurate and unfair to attach that struggle to every performance and every chapter of her life. And let this be a reminder of why it can be so hard for drug addicts to get clean. Because even in the midst of them being clean, people will just accuse them of being on drugs simply because they fell or are sleepy. They don't get the benefit of the doubt when people know that you've had drug problems before. And I don't even care for Pat Houston, which makes me even more mad at Oprah Winfrey for having me up here doing this. But I love that she said it's not fair to attach that struggle to every performance or chapter of her life, because I just touched on this in a previous video where I said I feel like this generation more so knows the memification of Whitney Houston than Whitney Houston as somebody who's a little bit older probably sees her. Now, I could literally go so deeper with this conversation because everyone who knows me knows that I am a big Whitney Houston fan, but we would literally be here for another 3 minutes. So let me know what y'all opinion is down in these comments so far. Make sure y'all like this video and follow me.
See, and this is why I can't get behind Oprah Winfrey. This is why I have a problem with Oprah Winfrey. And I hate to say that about a fellow Aquarian because normally I get along and I like other Aquarians, but she's one of the exceptions to the rule. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't really get behind her. She'd be too fast and too ready to be trying to exploit our own. And I'm not saying that there's some black people that shouldn't be entertainers or celebrities or whatever that shouldn't be, but she's so quick to jump on that. She's so quick to jump on it, and I get it. She's black, and she's black entertainment, but she picks and chooses with that, too. Her and Gail, right? Like, I get it. R. Kelly was out here. He was wild, and he was doing shit that he wasn't supposed to with young girls. Okay, let's talk about that, right? But then it's like, all right, so make sure that you even it up. Make sure you're talking about Weinstein, because when you did your show and you started getting popular, you was all too ready and willing to make sure that you had a whole bunch of white guests in your audience was white or whatever, and you gave the aesthetic of white pleasing and everything else. But when it's time to destroy the black community or celebrities or entertainers in the black community, you be so quick to try to jump on any bandwagon or any story you can, right? You did it with the Michael Jackson, the sensationalism behind that, right? But so, like I said, where's your Epstein? Where's your Weinstein stories? Where's who else was on drugs? What's my man? The Iron. The Robert Downey Jr. Make stories about that. You mean to tell me you told your audience to hide the footage of what was going on with Whitney Houston also that you could just tell what happened with Whitney Houston falling? We didn't need to know that. You don't think that we know? We know ad nauseum that Whitney Houston had a drug problem. We knew that she would relapse just like any person who is an addict does. We know that. We would like to remember her for her voice, the voice, right? And her death. At least in her death, let her rest in peace. Let her and her daughter. She passed away, the daughter passed away, And here you go. You had to give the interview where you're like, oh, I'm begging everybody to put their cameras away because it was Whitney Houston. So just so that you could tell the story 20 years later, then you should have just let the footage come out while she was out there, because we would have known already. We would have been all right because we knew that she had a drug addiction. You want to wait until she passes away when she has, whatever family members are remaining, rest in peace, Sissy Houston. Families are remaining, got to be, this got to be drudged back up in the media. This is why I don't like her. She's an opportunist. Like, Oprah Winfrey is an opportunist, and she's been an opportunist for a very, very long time. And we don't say it enough about her. We didn't ask you that. We didn't want that. That's the information we didn't want. Just share good memories. She's passed away. She can't come out and she can't say nothing. She can't say anything. So why would you do something like that? Why do we do that? Why don't we just let the those who passed away just be passed away? Why are we disrespecting legends? Even when they're alive, why are we disrespecting legends? It's the same problem I have with Jaguar Wright. You don't have any, it's not up to you to tell a story about what happened to Patti LaBelle when she was coming up and she slept with this person and slept with that person and Patti LaBelle got ran through. Don't you have any respect for any of our legends? Does anybody have any respect anymore for any of our legends? I get it. If you want to exploit Bill Cosby, you want to exploit, even though you pick and choose who you want to exploit, Oprah and Gail, right? But whatever, right? Because, whatever they was doing in the community, et cetera, like I said, especially R. Kelly. But but Whitney Houston, why does she even come up in that conversation? Like, did somebody threaten and say that, okay, I do have the footage and I'm going to show it? So let them show. Why did you have to be the one to explain that story? This lady has to be stopped. She has not really been all down with the community like that in a long time, right? Coming from the slums of Chicago, don't even get me started on how I feel about her being in Chicago and her lack of, you was busy building schools over there in Africa, but there's something ain't right with her. This gonna be a surviving Oprah story in a minute too. That was nasty work. That was dirty work. Nobody asked you. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to know that Whitney Houston passed out on the stage due to her relapse in her addiction. Nobody wanted that information. I certainly did not. How disrespectful. That lady has passed away. She is gone. I would rather celebrate her life, her voice, her beautiful voice. What she gave, that was a gift from God that she gifted us with, her talent. And I would rather remember her by that. We know about the drugs. We know about the Bobby. And we know about You Better Lay Low. We know all of that. We know all the stories. We've seen all the tabloid pictures. We've seen the drugs on the counter in the kitchen. We've seen all of that. We are very much aware, just like we are very much aware of the people who are addicts in our own family, that they can relapse at any minute in time and stuff like that happen without you having to remind the public and reminding outsiders exactly how it happened and what happened. Shame, shame, shame.
Whitney Houston's family and estate is fighting back against Oprah Winfrey today because she made some disturbing remarks about Whitney Houston because Oprah is trying to stay relevant. Oprah basically said when she was accepting an award over the weekend that Whitney Houston was so high on her show that she fell off the stage. And she said she kept that secret for Whitney Houston for decades and says that even fans took pictures of the incident, but Oprah begged the audience not to share those photos. And to our surprise, those photos have never been released. But yet they might now because Oprah wanted to say an incident allegedly that occurred on her show. It's very disturbing that she would say this about the late, great Whitney Houston without you not acknowledging her greatness. You want to keep bringing up her sufferings. That makes no sense. You're a grifter. Now, Whitney Houston's family has responded to those accusations, saying that's just completely not true. They released a statement to TMZ, and they told TMZ that, yes, Whitney did fall off the stage during a sound check that she was doing, but because the stage was unfamiliar and it was dark, it had nothing to do with drug use. Like Oprah claims that she was extremely high and relapsed on her show. Whitney Houston's family says it's unfair to connect Whitney Houston's addiction to every part of her life when that's just not true. He said, yes, again, she did struggle with addiction, but that day she showed up to Oprah. She showed up very professional and ready to work, not under the influence like Oprah claims. She was ready to show up and be professional. within a decade after Whitney Houston's death, it just seems that Oprah, in my opinion, is still grifting off of Whitney Houston, and it's truly disgusting. Rest in peace to Whitney Houston. If I see any more updates, I'll keep providing them for you guys. If you want some, follow along for more.
Church, I have said this time and time again, but I love when our legends get older because their lips get looser. Now look, Oprah was at Cannes Lions, which is a festival over there in France, and she was accepting an award. And during her interview, she decided to share a never-before-known tidbit about one of my favorite all-time pop culture moments, the Whitney Houston Oprah Winfrey sit-down. Now let me set the scene. It was the year of our Lord 2009. Whitney had divorced Bobby 2 years prior, and she was in the midst of her comeback run. And remember, the Oprah interview was a two-part event. The first part was just an interview. The second part was the remainder of the interview and a performance. Well, Oprah is now sharing that for the interview portion, Whitney was stone cold sober. But when it came time for the performance, Whitney had fallen off the wagon, which also caused her to fall off the stage. And Oprah asked her audience not to share any photos, videos, or any information surrounding Whitney falling off the stage because she did not want to ruin Whitney's life, okay? And they complied. And even Oprah said, keeping a lid on it could have never happened today because it was a different time. Look, in 2009, yes, people had camera phones, but it wasn't to the mania that it is now. In 2026, nobody seems to be able to keep a secret. Somebody will literally, get into a car accident, and before they call 911, they'll go on IG Live. Y'all ain't gonna believe what just happened to me, okay? But look, the question that everybody's going to ask Oprah now is why now, Oprah? Why share this information today? The lady, has been gone for years. Why share it now? And to that I say, why not now, okay? What did holding on to the information really do if you think about it? And look, because we know what eventually happened to Whitney, was holding on to the information to not ruin her life really the best thing to do? One of the things I learned about addiction and sobriety through Wendy Williams through the TV is that you're always supposed to call out the addict. Even if it doesn't stop them from doing anything in the interim, the fact that what they're up to and what they got going on will basically be in the back of their minds and make it a bit harder for them to do whatever they're doing, okay? So, did Oprah make the right decision by holding on to the information then? Did, she make the right decision by divulging it now? I'll let y'all decide. Y'all drop down in the comments and let me know what you think about this situation, and we'll talk later.
And one more thing my lawyers wanted me to say before I got off of here. Miss Sophia, Miss Harpo, come on up to the front because you know what? You didn't have to put that lady's business out like that. No, you didn't. See, here's what I have a problem with is that we sit here and we talk about the greatness of Whitney Houston and who she was and her voice and all of that. But the thing is that while her true fans are giving her her propers, why are y'all on her ass? Like, let the lady rest in peace. You were so proud of your audience for not exposing her and for not telling her, and you didn't tell anybody. So then why are you going to tell people now 14 years later? It is very evident that she had a drug problem. We are all aware of that. But her drug problem does not take away from that voice. I don't give a damn what anybody says. Y'all can say what y'all want to say. Oh, crack is whack, crack is cheap, animation, crack is whack. I don't give a damn how y'all feel about that. What we are doing, what her true fans are doing, we honor the grace that Whitney Houston gave, that she gave us, wish that she gave it to herself. We honor that voice. We honor the beauty that she was. We honor how much she loved her child. And even if it was a tumultuous relationship, how much she loved her husband, how much she loved the Lord, how much she loved her mama and her father. And y'all want to come on here on the people's internet and talk about well, my audience did so great and they didn't say anything about it. And, she was back on drug. Girl. See that? And this is why Celie told Harper to beat your ass. Because you do too much. You need to settle down. Bring it down. Shit, don't piss me off today.
I had
a set of thoughts around Oprah sharing this story about Whitney Houston falling in that 2009 interview as a Whitney Houston fan. And then I saw, Demetria Lucas. I saw her post where she was like, Oprah is a journalist and her job is to tell the story. And I was like, you know what? I received that. And I saw that maybe 3-4 hours ago, and then I sat on it. Huh? What was the point of asking the audience to not say anything if all these years later you were going to say something? I think that's the rub. That's the get you gotcha. I'm not mad. I just feel like it's weird. And also, I feel like you're not reading the room in regards to... I don't like the way that Whitney Houston is consistently disrespected by everyone and everything, while at the same time we call her the voice, the eighth wonder of the world. I just watched a bit of Keke Palmer's interview with Miss Jennifer Lewis, and while we know how incredible this woman was, it's so easy people just downright disrespect her, and she rarely gets a moment for her to be talked about without there being a caveat to her addiction and this, that, and the third. Even, the major motion picture that was done about her, it still had to end in the hardest part. It's like, we know Michael went through things for some reason. I know there was a thing legally, but how Mike's biopic, it's like, if they don't release anything else, it pretty much, men get encapsulated in certain things. And yes, there's documentaries and stuff out, but there's nothing that reflects the importance and the life of Whitney Houston that doesn't bring in her struggles and her hardest moments. The first couple of movies was fucking Lifetime movies for Whitney fucking Houston. Elvis died on the toilet. You tip down there to Graceland, honey, they don't ever play like that. So it's just like, that's my feeling. It was like, why would you go through the work of asking everyone, hey, please don't say anything, and no one has ever heard that story in all these years, for you to tell it. Also, for you to be existing at a time where every time we see you this close to falling over, auntie. And this is coming from a bitch who love a peppermint patty. Love a mini heel. You be moving like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. We're all this close to falling on our asses when we're in the spotlight. But that's my thought. Is like, why go through all that to tell the story? And she not here. And knowing that people don't have the common sense, they don't want to use the intellect to differentiate between just something happening and it being associated and attributed to a relapse or her being high. And then all this falls, right after Clive dies. I didn't like that. Yes, she's a journalist. Then you should have told the story 10 years ago.
Oprah told this story when she, you may have heard it. It was the first time, I guess, maybe it was 9 years ago. Well, when she did the Oprah show, Whitney had such an attitude with everybody, and I tried to tell her, listen, I said, karma is everything. I said, be very careful. Watch what you say now. She was still just very bitter and upset about some things, and she said, sissy, just let me be me. I said, okay. I said, I'm not trying to stop you. She was still a little hateful. She goes on stage and she trips. Oprah told that audience, not one single word to anyone. That secret was kept for way over 10 years or more. I'm telling you. That was a moment for me because I was so afraid when she slipped that she got hurt.
I have to add to this. When she fell, there was a little nail next to her inches. And if she had fell 1 inch to the left, it would have wrecked her head.
Jesus Christ.
So I was so fearful and so upset that she was failed, but even more so because I told her karma will get you. You know, that bothered me for saying that. But you know, she came out of there so humble. She did. She came out of there so humble and sweet. She said, "Child, you are anointed." Child, you are anointed. But I'm serious. Did you guys hear that story from Oprah when she?
No.
So this is your first time ever hearing this story? Oh, you.